All right. And Sam, I believe I am passing it over to you to do introductions and get us going.
That's correct. Thank you, Nicole. Just 1 second. We're going to be pulling up our slide deck. Chris is going to be sharing that here. While he's pulling it up, hello, thank you for having us. We're the team from Cloudflare. So my name is Sam. I'm our Senior Director of Zero Trust Products here at Cloudflare. I've been working on these products in the organization for over 4 years. And it's pretty exciting because for these products and in our network, everything that we build and everything that we think about is all towards a single kind of consistent problem. How do we help our customers become safer without compromising performance, or become more secure without compromising for speed? So today what we're going to walk through, can everybody hear me real quick? I just saw a message that they might not.
No, you're good. We can hear you.
No, we're good? Okay, great. So today what we're going to walk through is what Cloudflare does, what we do in the Zero Trust space. We're going to do a live demo of our Zero Trust products, and then I know we're going to take some questions. Before I begin, Nicole or anyone else, do y'all have any questions or specific things you want to make sure we address here today? Otherwise, we'll dive right in.
Nope, I think you're good to go. And then if there are questions, feel free to put them in the chat, everyone.
Okay, great. So Chris is just going to pull up these slides and we'll get moving. 1 second. It looks like Chris is having some problems. I think I'll have to share. 1 moment.
Perfect. We can see it.
That's visible to everyone.
Yep.
Fantastic. Okay. So we'll get right into it. So like I mentioned, my name is Sam. I'm going to be talking through the beginning and the conclusion here of this deck. We also have Chris here on the call who's going to be doing some demos here in the middle section. But thanks for the opportunity to share with you as an organization how Cloudflare can help transform your citizen services and agency networks to meet mission objectives. And I know that Cloudflare is not a household name for most folks. It's probably something that everyone in this call has used several hundred, if not several thousand times today. But it's a thing that it's not necessarily consumer facing. It's not something that everybody knows what Cloudflare does. So we're going to begin by walking through, just taking a few minutes to review what we offer and how we're supporting federal agencies today. But today's discussion really is, though, about Zero Trust, about helping you achieve Executive Orders 14028 and M2209. But we also provide a lot more than just Zero Trust. We'll kind of allude to some of that here in the conversation as well. We're happy to take questions around it. These other services that can help you meet other mandates like TIC 3.0 and Cloud Smart, as well as customer experience goals aligned to Executive Order 14058. So again, during today's session, what we're going to highlight about our platform is how it improves user experience, facilitates ease of deployment, and accelerates your ability to innovate. And we're really excited to talk through that. So before we dive into what Cloudflare does, just want to set the stage here. I know that there are a lot of buzzwords out there about this particular segment of the industry. And we know that Zero Trust is a principle, not a product. It is also our product name, which can be a little confusing. But we know that in this model, the SASE design framework, digital transformation is about giving you the tools and giving your end users the tools to be more secure, while also making the experience better, faster, more intuitive for administrators and end users alike. And it doesn't happen overnight. This is something that we see at this point over 10,000 customers who have deployed our Zero Trust security solution for access control, over 5,000 who have deployed it to secure how users connect out to the internet. And not any one of them did it in a single day. Some did it in a case of a few hours because they had to move their first application. But what we want to talk about is the ability to, or the experience where customers really are met where they are on their Zero Trust journey, because it's something that we really recommend with our own customers and the organizations that we support. They just get started somewhere. Like maybe today they're going to migrate their first wave of applications, or maybe today they're going to start with DNS filtering, but it's not all something that has to happen overnight. I'm going to turn presenter view on just to make sure we get the full picture. Great. All right, so at our core, Cloudflare's mission is to help build a better internet. And that's something that really guides everything that we do. Because for us, a better internet is also something, a more secure internet. And a more secure internet is something that people feel more comfortable using, running their businesses on, and securing their organizations. And we started out with this mission focused very specifically on web security. But the thing about that mission and the thing about this kind of first phase of Cloudflare products is that we began focusing on things like DDoS mitigation and WAF and our CDN, but we didn't set out to build CDN, WAF, DDoS mitigation. What we set out to build was a network, something that is truly unique, a global network, one of those peer networks on the world. And we're going to talk about that in a lot more detail. And on top of that network, we offer all the products we're going to talk about today. Because what we do is we use this mission for a lot of good for all users, not just the ones that pay us, but the ones that agree with our views, but supporting both some of the largest and smallest organizations alike to be faster without compromising security. And we do this by offering a lot of free services that also protect critical infrastructure, election integrity, at-risk public interest groups, and nations under attack. And CISA in particular is leveraging Cloudflare today as the next generation for E3A. So all federal civilian executive branch agencies will have their DNS queries run through Cloudflare in the coming year. And if you'd like to learn more about this, you can engage directly with CISA or reach out to us and we can facilitate the introduction. And this is really exciting for us because we built the world's fastest DNS resolver. And now we're taking all the intelligence that we see through our network in delivering security and understanding threats that are evolving on the internet. And we offer that to customers and CISA alike as a comprehensive protective DNS service for any users, any organizations of any size. And I mentioned this earlier, a lot of people know us for this top left segment, application services. And this is true because something like 16 to 18% of the internet traffic around the world passes through our network because some of the world's largest websites and internet properties use our services today to make their applications, their properties, their APIs faster and safer to reach their audience. But at its core, like I mentioned earlier, we're fundamentally a network. And on top of that network, we built our platform to solve more than just this one application services user population, but several others. And in particular, what we're going to focus on a lot today are employees, customers, and developers. In this purple segment, the colors are a little funny here, but this purple segment there at the top right is where we're going to focus our conversation today. Because with our zero trust products, and zero trust generally referring to protecting your agency employees and their data, there's real power in using our network, our single platform that covers all of these areas, building in phases at your own pace or priority. Because using patchworks of network hardware, trying to stitch together point solutions can have a number of consequences, most notable adding latency for all users or burdensome pain for the IT administrators. And so today we're going to focus on the use cases in the zero trust category. But just a note, we have FedRAMPed our entire global network. We've made generally available all the services that you see here to the public service sector. And again, we're happy to answer questions about these adjacent services at the end of the conversation. But again, while most SASE vendors are stitching together platforms from different point solutions or running their services in public cloud providers, all of this is running in every data center in Cloudflare's network. Every service that you see here, bringing security and performance closer to the end user, all built on a single platform. And because of that, we really believe that we have the most complete, easy to use, easy to deploy, and future-proof platform for agencies to implement a network security solution that meets their needs, both here and in the future. And you can learn more about these zero trust solutions, how they might fit into your own multi-vendor architecture at zerotrustruroadmap.com. It's a true vendor agnostic roadmap we've built out to help any customer, any organization understand where to get started. You might find other vendors offering other parts of this stack, but do keep in mind, one vendor doesn't equal one platform. What we want to offer is something that other solutions like endpoint protection or identity plug into in our network and use our network to connect users, to improve their connections, and to keep data and users safe and secure. Because when you see Cloudflare Zero Trust Network, you're really putting our entire global network in front of yours. We've built over 270 facilities around the world, and we run hardware that we control in these facilities. These are services and hardware and metals that we maintain and ship and manage. And because of that, we're able to deliver a single consistent architecture for all of our services, meaning every service runs on every server in every one of our data centers around the world. Which means, for example, with true single pass inspection, we can deliver that in a way that is lightning fast, really close to the user, no matter where they are on Earth. We also, again, in the spirit of meeting people where they are on their journey, we connect to almost every network on the face of the earth, over 10,000 network interconnects with ISPs, SaaS providers, and we're highly co-located with Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, so that when traffic hits our edge from these providers or from these other on-ramps, which again is roughly 1/8 of the internet today, we're delivering security solutions there where the traffic enters our network so that we're not introducing additional hops or additional latency or trombone impact. And that gives us something that is genuinely unique in the market space. Many ZTNA vendors rely on kind of an existing core cloud like AWS GovCloud or GCP for government in order to provide a subset of their services as a FedRAMP offering. That's not how we operate. We instead built zero trust and network services to run on every piece of metal in our network, in every data center, and that entire unified platform has gone through the FedRAMP process to ensure all services are available to public servants and citizens wherever they are. One additional note, we get some questions about this in our network. All of this entire platform supports both IPv4 and IPv6. And we know that the IPv6 piece in particular is a mandate and important challenge to solve, something that is generally pretty difficult to solve, but something that we just at our core, the mission to help build a better internet, we've long championed, and every service supports it here. All right, I know I've covered a lot about how our network works and what we're doing in this space, but way more interesting is actually seeing it in action. I'm going to hand it over to Chris Lopez, who's going to take control of the screen and walk you through what these products actually look like in principle. Chris, you good?
Thanks, Sam. I'm Chris Lopez, part of the Zero Trust team here at Cloudflare, and I'm going to take us through a couple of scenarios that line up with the Zero Trust scenarios that you've outlined, starting with securing application access for remote employees using their personal devices, showcasing our dynamic deployment options for content and security filtering, and diving into multiple contractor access scenarios for resources that are in different network and security contexts. The first few scenarios here are centered on ZTNA, both in its ability to protect applications and secure remote access in a way that outperforms a traditional VPN setup. A lot of organizations had to implement remote work solutions that they weren't ready for, and most of us at this point are aware of performance bottlenecks and segmentation and scalability issues and poor user experience, even in well-managed deployments. So let's take a look at how Cloudflare can resolve every one of these issues and put it back to back with a legacy VPN solution. Here, I'm inside my lab environment, and I'm taking the role of a user attempting to remotely access a resource. So I'm going to start by logging into my corporate VPN. Once I have access to my internal subnet, I'll just click on a bookmark to get access to an instance of Jira. Now, this process has a few issues beyond the clunky login, starting with how I'm not authenticated just to the resource, but also the subnet that contains the resource. Now, that's going to let me poke around and potentially access systems that are outside the scope of my job, like this firewall that I'm logging into. While obviously an end user is not going to have credentials for a firewall, I'm using this to showcase another issue, which is that I have to manage a policy in my firewall to enable OpenVPN. And typically, the fewer holes in my firewall, the more secure I am. Also, this is just for one employee in one subnet. And if we scale this up to hundreds or thousands of users, then properly segmenting and maintaining my network is going to be at least one person's full-time job. So I'm going to turn off my OpenVPN client, and my access to the resource should be cut off. Now, what we've done here with Cloudflare is we've installed an app connector on the origin server itself, and we've used that to expose the app with a public host name. Now, I'm going to be able to access this resource without the use of any client, as all traffic is going to hit Cloudflare's edge first and then have device posture rules applied to it. So what we've done is we've offloaded what used to be done with point solutions onto a private network that you can create on the internet with our global edge. We can see we've onboarded this app to Cloudflare as our login page comes up, and I'll sign in with my preferred identity provider. For this demo, I'm using Okta, but Cloudflare integrates with most major IDPs and supports custom SAML integrations as well. Now, if you don't want to expose your application over a hostname, we can still provide secure access using some variant of our secure web gateway. Down here, I'll sign into my device client, Cloudflare Warp, and I'll select the bookmark that I just used to get access to Jira. I can still reach the application because I've configured Cloudflare to permit private network traffic through my instance of Zero Trust, and I didn't need to touch any on-prem network device to do so. However, we can also see that Cloudflare prevents my access to the firewall that I was accessing earlier. Now, we can apply the same type of security to any application you onboard to Cloudflare, which brings me to our next ZTNA scenario. I'm going to access my corporate instance of Salesforce as a remote user, and show you how, in the process, Cloudflare can segment access to web-based applications. So after navigating to my instance of Salesforce, we're going to get the same login page that we saw with our instance of Jira. And also, we're going to have a device posture check invisibly applied to my request via zero trust rules that I've defined in the admin console. I'm signing into the main page, but when I try to access something that I might not be allowed to access, such as a setup page or a developer console, Cloudflare is going to detect I'm somewhere that I shouldn't be, and it's going to deny me entry. I also want to point out that we can configure custom block pages for when our gateway policies are triggered. Now, let's hop over to the admin console and see what all this looks like from their perspective. Inside Cloudflare Access, we're going to find all the applications that we're currently protecting with zero trust. And once we get inside the Salesforce policy, we can get a closer look at what device posture got applied to the incoming requests. So we can see I've assigned it to a few groups, and I've also created a requirement. Right? Anyone accessing this app has to have our device client, Cloudflare Warp, enabled. Now, I didn't create the Salesforce rule here, but I used our universal policy builder in Gateway. It's important to remember that access and gateway are both highly intertwined in Cloudflare, and I'm using both to create a comprehensive zero trust experience for my users in a way that's very simple to implement. Coming back to the main slide, we can see that I performed remote access both clientlessly and using my device client. Cloudflare managed to grant me access to Jira over a private route and my reverse proxy app connector, while also granting me access to Salesforce over my in-browser terminal. Thanks to Cloudflare's massive global network, we have better scalability for high volumes of users, built-in DDoS and firewall protections, and IPv6 support, which we'll see in just a moment. Since I brought up Gateway, let's take a look at the next scenario. So while zero trust network access is essential to any business, so is zero trust browsing via our secure web gateway. So the idea with zero trust browsing means that no website or code is ever going to be trusted to run on your devices by default. Now, there's a couple of ways to tackle that. You can enable Cloudflare DNS. That is the simplest way to protect your users from malicious websites. And it's going to be invisible to them as long as they use the device client. And what we're also going to show is HTTP filtering. And we're going to show a few other filtering options in terms of things like tenant control, things that are not just outright blocking or allowing. And as Sam mentioned in the intro, the CISA Protective DNS Service provided to federal civilian executive branch agencies, runs on Cloudflare, and is available to agencies at no cost. So what we can show lets you address the M2209 network requirement to use encrypted DNS wherever possible. In addition, we're also going to see IPv6 only connections as well. So back in the lab environment, let's get a sense of the user experience when it comes to content and security filtering. I'm going to go ahead and just do some basic DNS filtering over here. And I'm going to navigate to poker.com. And it's just a basic DNS policy. We're just blocking gambling. We can also block such things like security content categories, obvious phishing sites, bad reputation sites, and things like that. And I'd also like to point out that down here, I can assign a rule, or I can assign custom text to every rule to a block page. So we can see here that we were explicitly blocked by a DNS policy. And if I was blocked by an HTTP policy, we'd also see that. Now over here, I'm going to demonstrate tenant control as well. So we'll go to accounts.google.com and I'll try and sign in with my custom demo environment. And we can see that this account is not allowed to sign in within this network. That is directly because of a policy. Now, the reason HTTP policy. Now, the reason we're doing that is because there are obviously certain applications that your employees are going to need to access. You're going to need to access Google Drive. You'll need to get to file sharing things, Dropbox, and you don't always want that to be an attack vector. You don't want employees accidentally moving things to the wrong Google Drive, or intentionally moving things and exfiltrating that. And you just don't want it to become an attack vector. So in that sense, we can apply more granular HTTP level policies that are going to notice when you're going to a website that is not explicitly an instance of a company application. In addition, when it comes to content filtering, a lot of my content filtering is occurring because I'm using these, the device client, Cloudflare Warp over here. But if I need to, I can actually apply this to a location, and to that, I'm going to go ahead and bring up another Windows VM that I have running here, and I want to point out that this device does not have its device client running, but instead I am using a gateway location to be able to filter all of its outbound DNS requests. And I want to point out two things. One, this is using an IPv6 only address, and if I go back here and I can go ahead and try and access poker.com again, we can see that content is being filtered. Another thing is if I go into Google settings here, we'll be able to see that my DNS is actually using a custom URL that Cloudflare provided to me on the administrative side. So let's go ahead and take a look at that real fast. Just what do these policies look like and how exactly are they getting applied? So back inside the dashboard, we can see, we have DNS policies, content filtering via warp. We're blocking gambling. Also in content filter via location, I want to point out that the location here is in a hurricane electric tunnel, and we're blocking some more content categories. If I go here to edit, I just want to point out that this uses the exact same policy builder that we did to build our zero trust access rules. And in addition, for my location, if I go here to locations, we go to Hurricane Electric, we actually have a DNS over HTTPS URL that we can put either into our browser or wherever we need to apply that. In addition, if I go back to policies and go to HTTP, we can see that this is where I set up the block Salesforce URL policy. This is also where I set up the tenant control policy. Now, here's how this works. Now, in this application being Google Workspace or Gmail, what I can do is I'm allowing it, but I'm only allowing a custom header, or I'm only allowing domains that have this custom header value. So in this case, a domain that is managed by Cloudflare.com. So if I try to log into any Google account that is not managed by Cloudflare, then I will be blocked, and we did see the block screen over that way. In addition, we do have another part of HTTP policies. This is browser isolation, and we can use this to protect users, both in the sense of installing data protection controls on their device and preventing zero-day threats from executing on top of it. So let's take a look at what the end user experience is going to be for something like that. So there are a couple of ways to implement remote browser isolation. First is using the device client. So if I activated this policy and turned on my device client, every URL or every new tab that I would load would occur in an isolated browser. Another way I can do this is by using the clientless browser isolation URL that I have here. It's in a URL that's unique to my organization. And once I sign in, we're going to go ahead and get to a URL, and anything that I load inside of that URL is going to load inside of an isolated browser. Now, what exactly does that mean? So browser isolation, for anyone who's unfamiliar, in the context of Cloudflare, we're spinning up a headless Chromium browser at Cloudflare's edge, and we're sending all that data back to the native device itself. So I'm going to sign into Office 365 in an isolated browser. And once I do, I want to point out that I can prove we're in an isolated browser by bringing up the browser isolation toolbar. It's giving us live performance metrics of how quickly the headless Chromium browser is communicating with my native device. Now I'm going to showcase a couple of data protection controls that I was mentioning earlier. If I go into my instance of Outlook here, I have a couple of emails I could bring up, and what's going to happen is I'm not going to be able to copy, or I'm not going to be able to paste any information that's inside either of these, that would be inside either of these emails. That is because I disabled copy, paste, and uploads and downloads as part of the browser isolation policy inside of the administrative console. In addition, when it comes to zero-day threats, I'm going to direct us to this phishing email here. It's pretty boilerplate. During our last rollout, the server's cut out. You have to click this link and download the security patch immediately. We've all seen something like this, and we know that no matter how well you train your users, there's going to be one person that clicks on this link. And when they do, that could translate into a very serious breach, either in partial or for the whole of your organization. Now, if I click this, it's going to take me to, well, a harmless exploit. It would just open up my calculator. But again, it would do that once it broke out of the browser. And since this is occurring away from my device, I've basically done a controlled detonation of hostile code before it can ever reach my device. Because once I tear down this browser, the code that I executed on it will also go away. So with that, let's go ahead and bring back the slides here. So essentially, in the last couple of demos, the last sections, I showcased how we can filter DNS traffic either based on the device client or based on a location, how that location was an IPv6 only connection, also using encrypted DNS. In addition, I have been able to showcase remote browser isolation, and this leverages Cloudflare's global network and also patented network vector rendering method to be able to scale to organizations of any size. And this is actually a great tie-in to our next scenario, which is how do we manage contractor access to a SaaS application? Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So in this scenario, we have a contracted employee using non-corporate devices who needs to push content from a development to a production server, and both of them are cloud-based. So when it comes to enabling secure contractor access to a cloud, we have a few options here. First, I'm going to use our clientless browser isolation to enforce access to an application I've stood up in the cloud. The user process is pretty simple. I just enter the address into the search bar and we arrive at a login page, which you've seen a few times here. Now, behind the scenes, let's take a look at specific policy logic. Here, we can see the admin console for a new instance of Jira. We can see, again, I've assigned it to a few groups, allowing everybody through. But I do have a specific selector that I'm using for this application. Now, this is Gateway. This means I have to have Gateway active in order to access this device. And that's different from requiring the device client because there are a number of ways to enforce Gateway rules. I can enforce it with the device client. I also could enforce it via like having a pack file in there. And another way I can enforce it is through using the clientless browser isolation, since that technically also goes through Gateway and is subject to Gateway rules. So in this scenario, we have contractors who are not a part of this organization. There are several other methods access to this cloud-based application. Browser isolation. One thing we can do, and I can give them access by simply making them use the clientless browser isolation application tool that exists in the app launcher. So all they would need to do, one thing we can do is utilize our App Connector's ability to host non-web applications in order to provide people access isolation to either an application tooltip or VNC. And we also be able to do so with full zero trust rules in place of the application that they need to get to. In addition, we'd be able to provide zero trust rules. So in this sense, private IPs is a lot easier. So we're going to hop back into the lab environment real quick, and I'll be able to show any number of contractors that are going through your organization. How both and of those still you can secure your application in whatever context that you need to. So for the cloud-based scenario, the idea would be just to provide access to your contractors for as many applications that you need to render to them. And for, there are several other methods that we'll get into here in a moment to secure contractor access to critical resources, including the scenario for on-prem resources as well. So for a contractor working in an agency dev lab, we can render non-web applications like SSH and VNC through our tunnel, and then make those available via a hostname, like we've done with the other self-hosted applications. In addition, if you're not comfortable exposing a critical resource publicly, you can still provide zero trust rules on top of applications that exist only in a private IP space. So let's take a look at the end user experience for both of those options, and then dive into the behind the scenes logic to see how it works. So back in the demo environment, let's log into a couple of instances of browser-based SSH and see how that looks from the user perspective. So typically, we need to upload keys to some kind of infrastructure management system like Salt or Ansible. And in general, any situation with SSH terminals being exposed, that needs to be carefully managed and maintained. We can simplify that with our app connector and leave the identity management to our IDPs and have that be the only thing users need to interact with other than logging into the console itself. So here, once I pass through Okta, it's going to take me to a couple of windows where I can sign in. User is user. I'll just put in the password, and right away we're going to get a SSH terminal stood up here. Right, so I'm directly inside this device. Go ahead and print working directory. And let's also do an ifconfig, and we can see that I'm in subnet 20.1. I'm going to fire up another one. And since I've already signed in, it's going to pass my login through with SSO. User is user. And let's just showcase real fast that this is in an entirely different subnet here. We can see that this is in 20.3. And again, a contractor could reasonably be given access to both of these applications without giving them greater access to the rest of the systems in the company. And if you are not comfortable exposing terminals like this over or even just resources in general over a fully qualified hostname, one thing you can do, and especially in the context of the scenario where you're inside of a data center, you can simply apply zero trust rules on top of private IP applications. So we can see my device client is active, and that means I should be able to access resources that exist directly on these devices. We can see I'm going to go to HTTP bin, and I'll also open up an instance of Juice Shop. HTTP bin being the one on .1 and Juice Shop being the one on .3. And without the device client being active, I wouldn't have access to the one or to the application at .3. And if we go back into the rule set here, I should be able to. There we go. I'm going to point out here that I have a couple of private IP applications that are already onboarded to access. You probably saw them earlier. Down here, Juice Shop and HTTP bin. If I want to edit the rules, we're going to be taken to another variation of our policy builder. And if it's pretty basic right now, if the destination IP is 172.23.130, then permit access. If I wanted to, I would be able to apply other zero trust rules on top of this, including user groups, where are they coming from, what kind of protocol are they using, and so on and so forth. We are calling this true zero trust because we can enforce the warp client duration at the bottom. Instead of just granting people unlimited access to the subnet or to the resource, we can instead dictate how long they have access for, which is a criteria of zero trust. The important thing here, and I keep touching base on this, is that access and gateway are very much intertwined. So the policies that I'm using to manage that private IP application that I've onboarded to access are all available here. So we can see the rules for HTTP bin and Juice Shop are here and enabled. And if I wanted to, I could create other network policies, that go to different subnets and dictate access to those applications that way. Or I could onboard them directly to Cloudflare Zero Trust as well. In addition, I'm going to point out that we actually have the ability to perform SSH auditing. This is a new functionality. So if I have a destination IP, inside of a specific value, any SSH traffic on that policy or any SSH traffic that headed to that destination will be monitored and audited and put into a log that I can then access later. So with that, though, let's just touch base on exactly what we mean by optimize VDI. So we understand that many agencies rely on virtualized desktop infrastructure to support their employees. And from what I've just shown you guys, we can see that we can provide a better experience than using thick clients for non-web applications, right? Like we just sign in after the IDP and the posture challenge, and the admin experience is also a lot simpler than a traditional setup. So the idea is we just use standard HTTPS to expose TCP over a WebSocket. And then also to the outside world. And then, as I showed you, we can also onboard private IP applications and enforce zero trust rules there as well. So in the context of these scenarios, you'd be able to use both methods to enable contracted employees to access sensitive systems that exist inside of a premise, in addition to the scenario I showed you before, where you can use the clientless browser isolation to enforce access to a cloud-based application. That method also works for the others scenarios as well. So with that, let's move on to the last segment of this demo. We're looking at a couple of troubleshooting scenarios. The first one asks us, what tools do we give administrators to be able to troubleshoot access issues? And for that, we're going to actually dovetail back into the first scenario I showed you, where we blocked off a part of Salesforce. And the second one asks us, in the event of a user having a compromised credentials, what tools are available to be able to identify and mitigate the extent of the breach. So to answer that, let's go ahead and bring up the dashboard again. For the first scenario, I'd just like to point out that it's actually related to a gateway policy here. We'd be able to say, block Salesforce URL. Well, let's say we didn't know it was that, and we just had a user coming in and complaining that they couldn't access something. We'd be able to go over here and look for any kind of block log. So let's go ahead to actions taken, block. Let's go ahead and go back just a little bit. Right, so we can go down here and see a instance at orangecloud dev.ed.lightning.force.com. And one thing we can see here is who was attempting to access it. We see it's Bob at orangecloud.me. We can see the policy ID that caused this request to get blocked in the first place. And if I log into it, or if I click into it, it'll take me directly here. And one thing I can do with our universal policy builder is simply add a username to this. So if I say user email is not in Bob at orangecloud.me, or if it's not in Chris at orangecloud.me, then both of those users should have access now to that setup page and the developer console once I save this policy. So let's go ahead and save that. For the other one, let's say that we have a contractor who has compromised credentials, and we need to investigate exactly what systems have they touched, and exactly what do they have access to. So we can go here to users. Let's say it was Robert Wiley over here. He was the contractor. We need to figure out exactly where he's signed into. Well, looks like he's signed into a couple of devices here, and actually we can see all of his recent activity in terms of what applications has he been accessing, and maybe we can even find out what he's done there as well. If he's touched SSH, we'd be able to use that SSH policy to investigate all the commands that he's been running. But in the meantime, I'd simply be able to revoke his access to every device that he has touched. And this isn't just for employees. This isn't just for people within your organization. If it wasn't at orangecloud.me and instead was at just wherever. If it was someone I permitted access via a policy, I'd be able to revoke their credentials as well, all from the console here. And just to give you a quick peek over here at SSH auditing, we do have I put a public key in here that's encrypting my logs file, and then once I pull the file and download it, I'd be able to decrypt it with the private key. And with that, let's actually pop back over to Salesforce real fast. I'm going to go ahead and hop into the lab environment one more time. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and exit out of all of these. Fire up Salesforce. All right. And let's go ahead and sign in with Okta. I'll sign in as Bob at orangecloud.me. And once I do, I'll try to access the same Salesforce page that I couldn't access the first time, and I should be permitted access to it this time. So over here at the home page, let's go ahead and set this up, or go to setup. Great, and the policy has been updated, and Bob has now had his issue resolved with a minimal amount of effort and investigative work from IT. All right, and with that, we have reached the end of the scenarios that I was here to walk you guys through in terms of what can Cloudflare Zero Trust accomplish. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Sam, and he can wrap it up for us here.
Fantastic. Thanks, Chris. I'm going to steal the screen back.
Sure.
Appreciate that. All right. Chris, thanks for walking through those scenarios for us. I'm going to go ahead and for everyone here on the call, I'm going to do a quick recap of what we saw, and then I'm going to talk about what's next. First and foremost, and this is really where a lot of customers begin their journey with Cloudflare Zero Trust, we demonstrated our VPN replacement, our Zero Trust Network Access product set. And this is something that gives organizations the flexibility and ease of use of Cloudflare's global network with the security of best-in-class rule sets around device posture, identity, and really full control over how, when, and where users can connect to the most sensitive resources in an organization. And what is really special about this, beyond just the ease of use for administrators, is for end users, this makes their experience just feel like the internet, or a better version of the internet, as opposed to what they might be coming from with a legacy VPN that's backhauling and centralizing traffic. We're really excited about deploying this to organizations and agencies of any size, because it takes all of the best things about our network that we've obsessed over for some of the world's largest public-facing internet properties, and delivers a fully comprehensive zero trust solution for access control as a VPN replacement. And then next, what about the rest of the internet? So what Chris walked through was both DNS filtering and our secure web gateway in line with our network firewall rules. Because what we hear from a lot of our customers, and what we think about inside of Cloudflare as a security team as well, is how do I have zero trust in everything else that's out there on the internet? Because the internet is both really exciting because anyone can connect any resource to it, but that makes it really terrifying. So how do I apply just blanket skepticism in the internet without slowing my team down? And we do that in a few different ways that Chris walked through. First, we make it easy for administrators to configure global one-click or even two-click rules that deliver comprehensive security to their organization, from phishing to malware threats or content categories that they need to filter as well. And second, we also make it fast for the end users, because we don't want those administrators getting the help desk tickets that, hey, you just slowed me down. My internet experience just got so much worse. We want to do the opposite. We want to take everything we've done in the last decade, accelerating connections around the internet, using our own global backbone to make sure that traffic is moving even faster than it might normally on the internet, and deliver that to users just connecting out to the internet, which is really powerful for organizations of any size to deliver full security without compromising speed. And then next, we talked about inspecting the traffic as well as our browser isolation tool. So in this case, what we're doing is we're offering organizations a real level of flexibility over how they want to deploy this security solution. And again, all of the same ease of use principles take place here, but for an administrator, they can have a little more depth and a little more complexity over how they want to configure this for their organization. One of our favorite rules, one of the things we see most often is, hey, I want to let my users go to potentially untrusted websites, but I don't want to bring the risk back to them. And that's where the isolated browser that Chris demonstrated to you comes in. The headless version of Chromium running in every Cloudflare data center around the world. So for me as a user, it just feels like the internet. But for administrators, with a single click, they have comprehensive security controls over that particular untrusted, but maybe not necessarily outright bad website. And we also talked about contractor use cases. This is probably one of the most popular reasons that customers pick our zero trust solution. And they choose that for a handful of different options. First and foremost, we can take multiple sources of identity, multiple sources of device posture, what you saw Chris demo earlier, and integrate it and aggregate it into a single source of identity signal, so that multiple business units, departments, agencies, all working together on different resources or the same resources, you can have consistent single pass rules that determine who can reach what. And for additional layers of data control, we can inspect the traffic inline for data that might not be supposed to be going out to certain contractors or leaving different parts of the organization. or on that web page itself, do things like print control or copy paste control. It's really a defense in depth strategy to say, hey, this is the most important data in my organization, but I still need to let these partners or these contractors have some limited access to it. How do I do that in a way that doesn't slow them down or introduce just a mountain of maintenance and administrative overhead for my own team? And that's the solution deployed in thousands of organizations around the world that we're really excited to deliver in our network. And then finally, what Chris highlighted is visibility. Frankly, one way our own CSO describes this solution, he being a customer of our product set, is high visibility, low effort. We want to give organizations the ability to see what's happening inside of their enterprise, inside of their teams, inside of how their contractors are using their tools, without the complexity or the effort involved to manually deploy logging solutions to everything. And so to that end, both in the Cloudflare dashboard with analytics that live there live or shorter log retention times, to more long-term storage platforms where people can export all their logs and hold them indefinitely, and then our integrations with SIEM platforms. So our partnerships there that make all the data that we're gathering and collecting that much more useful for organizations. All right, so we've talked about the demo. You've seen what Cloudflare Zero Trust offers, done a little bit of intro about what Cloudflare's network is and why it's different. Why us though? And really organizations come to us for three different reasons. And as much as we like to think, it's because we have 270 cities, which is more than other vendors are in the space, or it's because this is that much faster than other vendors in the space. Those are all reasons that contribute, but at the end of the day, it's really these three. One, we improve the end user experience. We make it so that every employee or every member of any organization, their experience using the tools that power their workflow just got that much better. Second, ease of administration. We help people go home earlier. The way that our product is designed and in our DNA has been something that can serve organizations of any size. So if you don't have a massive IT department or security department deploy this, our definition of great is that any one user, casual user even, can deploy this a full comprehensive zero trust solution without needing all of the help and complexity. However, that doesn't mean it's meant for small organizations. That's just our definition of great from an ease of use perspective. All the feature set and functionality that we've talked about today serve some of the world's largest enterprises from a security perspective. But again, people pick this because it makes their job easier. And then the third, our innovation velocity. We talk a lot about speed of our network, but the real magic at Cloudflare is the speed of what we can build and ship. We move so quickly because of that single architecture that we talked about earlier, because of our obsession with solving the customer problems that are constantly evolving on the internet and bringing new products to new potential challenges that our customers, both now or future customers, face, and things that are just too difficult for them to solve alone. We want to be there to help them. We want to help together with them, help them build a better internet. And this is why people pick us. Again, we've talked a lot of it about this today. This is kind of just a summary slide of how our single comprehensive platform solves the full range of SASE challenges for organizations in a way that makes everyone's user experience that much better. All the administration headaches that might be associated with legacy or other vendors in the space, we want to make those go away. And we want to keep shipping even faster to get ahead of the problems that are coming in the future. And that's why we're really excited about what the Zero Trust platform means at Cloudflare. Because again, at the end of the day, we want to help our own customers focus on what really matters to them, as opposed to constantly worrying about either managing and maintaining their security infrastructure or the things that their security infrastructure just might not be catching. Again, we want to give them the ability to just say, I'm going to click the Cloudflare button and I'm not going to worry about this anymore. And to that end, we see that mission, that philosophy, drive a lot of pretty significant results from organizations who see an 80% reduction in help desk tickets associated with their legacy VPN or secure web gateway, to reducing breach costs by a third or over a third in this case. This last one, the green one, is probably my favorite, accelerating onboarding. We help new team members, new employees of organizations get onboarded and connected to the resources they need 60% faster. And of course, that matters a lot if you're a contractor or a partner working with some other organization, and you don't want to be wasting their time trying to configure their access control. You want to make it easy so they can come in and do the job that they were partnered or contracted to do. And so that's the outcome. So this is what we really focus on and measure as our definition of done in terms of, are these products solving the problems that our customers have from an ease of use, ease of administration, and user experience perspective. So we've covered a lot today. We've left time here for questions at the conclusion. Earlier in the conversation, I did mention zerotrustroadmap.com. It's something that we built because we heard, and y'all probably hear this a lot as well, from so many organizations around the world that said, I know I really want to move to a zero trust model. I don't know how to get started. And we built it to be fully vendor agnostic. We recommend competitors of ours in this space because, again, our mission is to help build a better internet. And so however people go about making that internet safer or faster for their organization, we're just happy if it's faster or safer. So if you go to zerotrustroadmap.com, you can see the materials we've put together to help organizations of any size just get started on this journey. And then if you have more questions specific to our public sector involvement, I know we focused a lot on that up front in the conversation. Happy to take questions about it here at the conclusion. You can reach out at that email address there, public-sector@cloudflare.com. We'll make sure to get you connected with an expert. Again, thank you so much for your time. We are really honored to be able to present and share this kind of vision that we have. It's something that every day in the organization, we just wake up excited about, because when these products work well, when customers deploy these, when they adopt this model, it's not just about having a zero trust security model. That's table stakes. What it's about is doing something that is easier to use and improves the user experience for everyone else while never compromising on the security side. So again, thank you for your time. Happy to answer any questions that you have. We have our full, or part of our public sector team on here as well. We can go into some of the more specific public sector related questions, or if you want to geek out about any of the technology, Chris and I are happy to help there as well. And we'll take questions audio or in chat, but if it's in chat, you might have to read it out loud to me. I think I lost visibility of the chat panel and sharing the full screen.
Okay. Well, I don't think anybody has any questions then.
All right.
Thank you so much for your presentation. You did really awesome. It was very informational, so thank you. If anyone does have questions, please feel free to email either myself or Chris Kirkendale, and we will get those questions forwarded over to your team, Sam.
Great, thank you.
And if anybody does need anything else on the ATARC side of things, please feel free to let me know on that front as well, not just presentation focus. But thank you all for coming, and I hope you have a good weekend.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all for your time. Really appreciate it.
Bye, everyone.